Hey there, friends and foes. This is Back of the Cereal Box, the pop culture podcast that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays of our youth. It is Saturday morning, and just like Saturday mornings in summer when we were kids, there's some goober already mowing his lawn at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you hear the lawnmower in the background, that's what's going on. This morning, we have a very special guest. Jonathan Wright from the West Coast is joining us to talk about his new board game, but we're also going to be talking about a brand new series. We're starting a brand new series this morning, Saturday Matinee Monster Movies, Kaiju Krunch, and we're going to start with Gamera, and we're going to do that right after this from the Murdering Crows.
It's like Coca-Cola, Levi Strauss, Johnny Carson and Mickey Mouse. The first star was James Dean. Elvis Presley, yeah, he's still the king. Some things are only imitatable. You can't beat an original. Oh, you can't beat an original.
All right, guys and gals, that awesome theme song is brought to you by our good friends, the Murdering Crows. You can get their album, Four Bad Crows, at Amazon, iTunes, Google, or anywhere you buy music. And we are brought to you by our Cereal Box super friends, Cade Hawkins, Eli Cash, Cindy Kep, Charisse Collins, Dave Mattingly, and you too can have your name in lights at buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod. And who am I? I am your host, the prophet of pop culture, John Pica. You can call me Johnny. Avengers comic books, Star Wars movies, and Saturday morning cartoons made me who I am today. And this morning, I'm super excited because we finished our Saturday morning essentials, our Saturday morning 101 series. And this morning, we start a brand new series, Matinee Monster Movies, Kaiju Krunch. And we're going to start this morning with Gamera. And joining me in the audience, or in the virtual rec room rather, is our co-hosts. Give it up first for our emotional support Canadian, the Peppermint Princess, the social media socialite, all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. She is a fan of X-Men, Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, and pretty much all things comic books and superheroes. She is the one, the only, Willow Schuyler.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Willow. How are you?
Excellent.
You look fantastic.
Well, considering yesterday, for some reason, my heart just decided to extremely palpitate for I swear it was like an hour. And my husband's like, no, I don't hear anything. Your heartbeat is normal. It's like, well, this isn't normal.
So the best remedy for heart palpitations is to uncover the heart and give the rest of us palpitations. Well done. Well done. I love it.
I'm going to have a heart attack. Everyone else should.
That's right. I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. We also want to welcome in our other co-host, your wife's favorite redhead. She is an amazing cosplayer, photographer, and fan of all things comic books and geek. And she is just one of the most awesomely cool people on the planet. She is the one, the only Aubrey Cavett.
Good morning, Willow and Johnny and everyone else out there on the internet this morning and wherever and whenever you're watching.
Good morning. I got to see Aubrey in person again last weekend. She came out to see my new show, Beyond Smoke and Mirrors, and it is running again today at the Palace Theater at 1 o'clock in Gallatin, Tennessee. And a little birdie told me, Aubrey, that you might be making a return trip.
Well, it just so happens that I have a few friends that are around the time of your show, and I was like, you know what? A birthday present.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Now, we have a very special guest joining us in the virtual rec room this morning. He reached out to us and basically said, dude, your podcast is my entire childhood. And that is the whole point of this show, is to go back in time, relive some of the memories and the nostalgia of when I was a kid. Saturday mornings, we didn't have phones or iPads at the breakfast table on Saturday mornings. We were reading the back of the cereal box instead of looking at a screen. And Saturday mornings meant big bowls of cereal. It meant cartoons, comic books, and kaiju movies. And we're going to be talking about kaiju this morning. But our very special guest, Jonathan Wright, is coming to us from the West Coast. And he is a game designer. And he's created a game that is mechs versus kaiju. And he's going to be talking about it with us this morning during our new loot segment. But let's welcome him into the virtual rec room. It is the one, the only Jonathan Wright. Jonathan, can you hear us?
I can indeed. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you sound great. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Did I get your intro right? Did I get that okay?
Absolutely, yes. I'm sitting right now in the path of a hurricane, which is a very strange feeling.
I thought on the West Coast they call them typhoons.
Apparently, it's Hurricane Hillary. So, who am I to question science? Because, it brought us so much, like giant robots and monsters.
That's right. That's right. We love that. Now, one of the first segments that we have to ask, and Willow's already right there, is it's Saturday morning. You're 10 years old. What's in the bowl? And Willow, what do you got this morning?
I'm going healthy today.
Wait, does that say Love Crunch?
Love Crunch. It's dark chocolate and strawberries.
Ooh. The Love Crunch.
So
soon we'll be meeting another spoon. The Love Crunch. All right.
The important question is anything that has crunch in it, like how's the top of your mouth after eating it?
It's actually not as bad as Captain Crunch.
I love it. I love it. So show that, because it looks very
yes, I know,
oatmeal-ish.
guys. Yes, it is an oatmeal mixture, and I mixed it with instant oatmeal.
Oh, okay. So it's not the cereal and milk by itself. All right.
No. So, but it is really good. So the dark chocolate gives it's healthy because it has dark chocolate in it, guys.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So nobody saw Aubrey panic, get up and run off screen and come back. She forgot her spoon. Aubrey, what's in the bowl?
Okay, so I did a mad scramble this morning. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have any cereal. I don't eat a lot of cereal, but I do for this show.
Oh.
I got Rainbow Krispies. Look at that. 8 whole grains.
So
look at that, guys.
Here's what I want to know. You're going to try this in a minute. A lot of people have said, because I've not tried it yet, but a lot of people have said that it just tastes like Fruity Pebbles.
I can see that.
Oh, it smells really good.
That's the first thing, Jonathan. When you crack open that new bowl, you gotta do the smell test. It's kind of like a fine wine. Absorb the bouquet.
I mean, if you were kids like us, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You want to smell that sugar.
And the fruit.
Okay.
All right. So
they're flat. They're flat.
Yeah. So they look like Fruity Pebbles.
What? They're flat. What is that? Oh, guys, I'm so confused. What in the world? Okay,
Yeah,
somebody
because
tell me what's going on.
Rice Krispies are round, but Fruity Pebbles are flat, and these are the Rainbow Krispies, and they're flakes, not rice. Yeah,
Mm. Mm.
That's the same reaction that I when I had Fruity Pebbles for the first time in like 30 years.
yeah, because Willow did not remember that Fruity Pebbles were flakes. All right, so Aubrey has taken a bite of the flat Rainbow Krispies. She's chewing it up. She's contemplating what she thinks about it. She's got a perplexed look, like she's not quite sure exactly what she's experiencing.
So I had Fruity Pebbles not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it on the stream, but it was a berry flavor. It was different. Guys,
That's right.
This tastes so. It tastes really fruity. This has fruity flavor. It tastes really, really fruity. Like Fruity Pebbles, I have to admit, was always like the more pop of flavor, but I felt like it also kind of let the flavor get lost in the sugar. I feel like I can taste the difference in flavors.
You can?
I feel like I can. I just took an orange one and put it in my mouth, and well, I'm an ex-smoker. You know, kids don't smoke, it's bad for you. You lose your sense of taste. They don't tell you that. Okay? So that's a bad mumbo jumbo there. I can taste all the flavors. The orange tastes like orange. You know, like the snozberries taste like snozberries. Come on, okay, guys, let's just try it. But great news on the back. Kids and adults alike, if you are bored and you still want to look at the back of the cereal box, look at. Not only do they have the yummy ideas, which everybody should make these. Everybody should make Rice Krispie treats. But also, look at more skin here. And you know what's cooler than being able to eat cereal? Being able to cook cereal, then eat it later on.
I love that. I love that. Now, Jonathan, you're joining us at 6 a.m. Pacific time. You're crazier than I am. Do you have anything in your bowl this morning?
My bowl is just like the blurry basic consciousness that I'm functioning on right now, and like just hydrating myself at this point.
That's okay. That's okay, because I've got this question to ask: will it cereal?
Oh.
And for this, I got a box of Barnum's Animal Crackers.
Classic.
Now, you guys, I had not had these in years. Now, you know, they changed the box. They changed the box design. You may not even realize this. Used to be, it was like 4 cages with the animals in the cages. They got rid of the cages, which I support. I get that. I actually like this design a lot better. And they weren't cages. They were train cars, the train cars, but they look like cages. So they wanted to uncage the animals. Okay, I get it. They were circus train cars because Barnum and Bailey Circus. Anyway, they changed the design. I had not had the Barnum Animal Crackers for years until I had food poisoning a couple of weeks ago, and it was one of the few things that I felt like I could eat and not vomit back up. So I had them, and they were really good. Really, really good. And I didn't remember them being good. I remembered the other animal cracker cookies that are like almost like oyster crackers. You know what I'm talking about? So these are shortbread cookies. Very good. But the question came, will it cereal? And we're about to find out. So I've got the animal cracker shortbread cookies, some almond milk. Now, these are like other cookies. They're going to get soggy real quick. But here we go. So I'm going to find a couple of broken pieces here. We're going to start here.
A live
Aubrey,
taste test.
Yeah, live taste test. Here we go. Will it cereal? It's okay. It's not as good as Scooby Snacks. Listen, if you want an amazing cookie cereal, Scooby Snacks or Oreo Minis, even Nutter Butter Minis, holy crap.
Ooh.
But these are okay. These aren't great. Mm. 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 They're better. They're better just out of the box. Spoiled again. Anyway, Will It Cereal was brought to you by the Tales of the Decoverse series, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books. And we've got some viewer comments. So we're going to do a couple of viewer comments, and then we're going to dig into some new loot, Jonathan, and talk about your game.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Let's see. Zentron says, hello. And he just finished watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's a good movie. Must see.
Oh, is it a sparrow? Is it an African sparrow? Anyway, good morning, Johnny Beyond. Roar, bring on the creatures, says Carlin Stewart. Facebook user says, good morning. Cartoon Commotion says, good morning, love Gamera. And Matthew Mosley says, good morning. And Cartoon Commotion Kate Hawkins says, free the animal cracker animals. That's right. That's what they wanted to do. And Andrew Milden joins in and says, good morning. Good morning, Andrew. Glad you are with us. And actually, that's all the comments so far this morning. That's okay, because that just gets us to Andrew's favorite segment, That Faster. And that is, Jonathan, when we were kids, we were reaching into the cereal box, pulling out the prize. And this is the segment that we like to refer to as New Loot, where we reach into the cereal box, pull out the prize, and show off our fun loot to our friends who are joining us at the breakfast table on Saturday morning. So, Aubrey, you got all excited there. Like you got something to show off.
So, it's no surprise that I've been looking for things to pull out of the cereal box. Let me get a little closer. And I get a delight when I find a maker or a creator. And I'll be posting later on my Instagram their information. But so I got a tiny little box of cereal.
Ah,
Cute.
It's got all the little details, and they turned it into a magnet.
Aw.
Okay, and then I got another one because I couldn't help myself. So, you know how you always have those figurines, right?
what in the world?
Oh.
She's so cute.
That is super tiny. Who is that?
This is Black Widow.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
I know, right? And it's got the full like setup on the background. So if you guys can find them,
Oh my gosh.
like all the info, it looks like the real thing. Like,
Huh.
look at that.
Wow, that's
She's
kind
gonna
of
be on my fridge
That is
from
really
now on,
tiny.
right? Those size.
Micromagnets. I love it. Willow, do you have anything in
I
your cereal bowl
do.
in your box this morning?
I do. So it's no surprise that I'm obsessed with superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Walmart and found the X-Men 97 Wolverine
Ah, nice.
and Loki for $3.
Hey, you know what? The Walmart clearance aisle is magical. Now, Willow, hold up the X-Men or the Wolverine. So Willow, for those of you who are just listening, is showing off the Wolverine Titan series from the X-Men 97 line. And X-Men 97 is the continuation of the cartoon series from the Saturday morning cartoon series that is coming to Disney Plus. That starts off at 97 where the previous series left off, and the toys are hitting shelves now. And Willow has the Titan series, which is 12 inches of Wolverine awesomeness. I had to be really careful about where I was going with that.
I also raided a comic book store the other day. Actually, me and Joe went to one of our favorite stores called Galaxy Comics.
Ooh.
And found out the newer Elvira comic series.
That's the Elvira in Monsterland. That's the most current series. That's the third series that I think it's Is it Dark Horse or Dynamite?
Dynamite.
Yeah, that's the third series that Dynamite has done for Elvira. There was an Elvira meets Vincent Price, and then there was another one, and then this new one, Elvira in Monsterland. Oh, there's the
I
Vincent
bought a
Price. Yeah.
whole bunch of them.
Ooh. Oh, I love Vincent Price.
I especially approve of Elvira and Vincent Price. It's a great combination.
Oh yeah.
You know
But
what
yeah,
I want to see?
I got a bunch of them. So
All the Elvira comics.
I think I bought them all.
I love that. I love that. You know what I want to see? I want to see a movie team up of Dolly Parton and Elvira as two sisters in the South who have to fight zombie demons. That's what I
feel like that would be a cult classic forever.
Yeah, I think so too. So, Jonathan, we asked you to be on here with us, not just to talk about Gamera, but you have something very cool as a prize for your new loot. Tell us about your game and show off anything that you have.
And first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always great to be with folks that had sort of like similar experiences when they were kids.
Yeah.
And it was that experience that really inspired my game, which is Mecha vs. Kaiju, a science fiction role-playing game that puts you in the pilot seat of a giant robot fighting a giant monster. And it was the movies of the 70s that I saw, the Showa era Godzilla and Gamera movies that first, really just captivated me in imagining these stories, watching Japanese anime like Star Blazers, and then into Robotech in the 80s. I was just, I was sold. That was absolutely my thing. So way back in 2008, there was a writing contest for a role-playing game. And so I submitted this idea called Mecha versus Kaiju. And it was basically just a framing device to put robots and monsters into a game. And they liked it. I got a license for that, and that was the first version of the game, which sold about 3 copies because I didn't know anything about marketing. But then 2014, or actually it was around 2012, 2013, Pacific Rim is coming out, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about giant monsters and robots again, and that's when I decided to do the updated version. And this was for Fate Core, which is a narrative sort of game. It's a great game, but it didn't have like that crunchy bit that I really liked. I'm an old school grognard, so I like some crunch in my games, and that was the inspiration for this new game that's currently kickstarting. So mechaversuskaiju.com/Kickstarter will get you to the current game, which is being created with 5th edition, which is the Dungeons and Dragons system, but we've heavily edited it so that it feels like you're playing in an anime. So you're an anime hero that is built on archetypes. Your who you are is more important than what you do. So your stats are based on your personality, your style, your values. And so you really sort of narrate your action in sort of a movie way and then roll your dice. So even if you're not entirely successful, you still it's still a really dynamic style of game, and all of it designed to put you in in a giant monster movie as like as the action star.
So I love this idea. Now, I'm not very much into role-playing games. However, Willow, you and I know you are, Aubrey, and Willow, you're nodding your head like you know
More
exactly
so
what
video
he's talking
games,
about.
but yes, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and been ever since the game came out. So, Resident Evil, Silent Hill,
Now,
all those
Aubrey,
survival horror.
you're into tabletop RPGs.
I love D&D and I love anime, so I'm really
Love to play this.
excited right now.
So
Yeah, you're our dream customer.
So Jonathan, this you published this previously, but now there's a Kickstarter to do the new edition. Are there previous editions available?
There are, in fact, anybody who backs the current Kickstarter gets our entire back catalog. I've been writing since I was in middle school, and so this has really been like a labor of love.
Yeah.
I've got we've got a 20 book catalog at this point of stuff that we've been writing since 2008, and my first set of supplements was the Big Book of Kaiju, which is actually an in-universe thing. They have this group called Kaiju Taku, who are like Kaiju super fans, and they catalog all the information about the giant robots, and they put it out. Originally, they put it out in a zine, and then in a website, and now they actually have full-on like encyclopedias in universe of these books. And so the Big Book of Kaiju is our monster manual, basically. And then there was supplements for the United States. My conceit for this game is that every giant monster movie really happened. So you've got kaiju that are just like roaming the seas. Japan, of course, is beset every other week by giant lizards. And in the United States, it was giant bugs. So you've got ants and mantises and tarantulas, and they all they all went to the American Southwest, in part because that's where all the atom bombs were dropped, and in part because it's really cheap to film there. So that's where they all showed up. And so if you can imagine a block in the U.S. map from the from the Sierra Nevada to the Mississippi, with Texas like kind of at the bottom row, and then I don't know, one of the Dakotas at the top. There's just this block of the map that is just gone, and the everybody evacuated that area. The Native Americans said, "Hey, since you're not using this, we're going to take it, and we'll fight some giant bugs." And the only other people that stayed behind were the Mormons, who already had a fortress, so they just like built a wall around it. And that's part of the fun for me as I'm a credentialed history teacher. So part of the fun for me is the alt history part.
Yeah, I love that.
And so every one of my supplements has kind of a timeline set up so that you can I really want to use them as sort of a toolbox. So like you can set games in different time periods. You can use stuff that actually really happened and adapt that into your game.
Aubrey is bouncing up and down like she's like a kid.
I'm one
on
of those
Christmas
adult
morning.
women that's over 40. I'm not going to say how much over 40. No, I don't care. I just turned 43. I actually played Vampire the Masquerade, like live action, with lawyers, artists, slight politicians in the area. As adults, we dressed up as vampires. We went to a public place, and we went, Rochambeau. Like, so this new role-playing game, this is amazing. I'm so in love with this idea.
Hold up the cover of that again, Jonathan.
So this is our version from 2014 for Fate Core, and we of course have one of the nice things, like I said, I'm kind of a one-man band, so having like a black and white game with like being able to get cool comic artists to do your work, this was great. But I really have to hand it out to my patrons. I have a Patreon called patreon.com/Mecha versus Kaiju. And my patrons have really made the physical book possible. So the new book's going to be in color, 250 pages, and all of the preliminary work I've been doing has been thanks to my patrons. And we've had 60 people through the Patreon, and so this has hundreds of hours of play testing, and the system. Even now we're like fine tuning the system and making making little changes based on playtest response, because that those are the people that know the system the best.
That's fantastic. So we've got some viewer comments, some audience comments. Chris Vaglio of the Chris and Amanda Song Swap Showdown joins us, says, "Good morning, all. It's Chris." And Dave Mattingly says, "Jonathan, that's not a conceit. Every kaiju movie really did happen." And Zentron says, "Bugs, like Starship Trooper bugs." And I'm going to answer this question and say no. Like them bugs, like arachnophobia bugs, like now you're talking about the American Southwest. Are there any gargoyles in this game? That's a deep cut, folks, right there.
No gargoyles, but we do have ogres. I used a lot of Japanese mythology, so as far as like the Japanese-based campaign goes, the mythological origins of Japan, with like the gods sticking a spear into the water and the drips forming the island of Japan, there being oni with ogres roaming, all of that stuff really happened. So
I love it.
So there's also, for those people who want to throw a little magic into their game, there's also this magical element that they can bring in.
I like that.
But
I love this whole idea.
Yeah, that part's optional. If people aren't into their magic, then they can explain all of the stuff in the game through science.
And Dave Mattingly says project backed, and Zentron says lots of oni! Exclamation point. Now, here's my question for you, Jonathan. Talking about mechas, Robotech or Voltron?
Oh, no, that's I can vividly remember, even to this day, running home the day of Voltron's release, because I don't know if anybody, well, you folks will remember, whether your watchers will remember, there wasn't a whole lot of information about Voltron before it was released. All I knew is that it was a robot cartoon, and it was it was an anime that had been brought over. So I literally counted down the days, and when at the bus stop, like if I walked home, I was going to miss the beginning of that show. So I ran home from the bus stop on the day that premiered, and I'm sitting there in front of the TV. Same thing with Macross. They had or Robotech. They had done a Macross comic book about 6 months before, and so I'm watching Robotech, and I went, wait a minute, is this? And I run and I get the Macross comic, and I come back, and yep, sure enough, it's the same story. And so I'm sitting there.
That was published by Comico, wasn't it?
It was Comico, yeah, and yeah. I think it was their proof of concept that yes, we can actually do this, and that was what got them the license to do the whole series.
So for those of you who are in the audience, I just want to add some context here. Comico was the first indie comic company that had mainstream newsstand distribution. You could get their indie comics in grocery stores and drugstores, and that had never happened before, and really I don't think it's happened since. But there was a magical time then.
It really was, and so to answer your question, I have to go. I have to go with Robotech. The
Okay.
Macross series was something that I had every time I saw anything about Macross, I just devoured it. I was fascinated by obviously the transforming element, and as a matter of that reminds me when I was in a KB Toys, which was I don't know if you folks had one of those, but it was
I was
kind
an
of like,
assistant manager.
oh, excellent. So kind of a second run toy store. They'd get some of the cast offs from other places and some of the more obscure toys. And I'm in KB Toys in the 80s, and I see a Jetfire. Which was the Transformers version of the Macross Veritech. And if you'll excuse me to take me off from the camera for just a moment.
He's going to go grab something. While we do that, Zentron asks a question about Mighty Robots or Mighty Orbots. And you guys know that is one of my favorite Saturday morning shows. We talked about it in season 1. Now that Willow and Aubrey are with us, we're probably going to revisit the Mighty Orbots when we get to our Saturday morning 102 series. But Mighty Orbots, I absolutely loved. That was the Saturday morning big giant robot show that I got up every morning to see every Saturday morning. But so you got a Transformer to show off, Jonathan.
It was not difficult to get because it's been on my shelf literally since I was, like in my early 20s or something like that, whenever it came out. So this is not a from Macross. This is actually a Transformer, and this was Jetfire. They got the license to use the toy and included him in the cartoon. The only proviso was they were not allowed to use it in sort of the middle transforming section. He could be a person, he could be a jet. He couldn't be the middle form because that one image was licensed by Harmony Gold. So I have just about every version of Jetfire that's been released, in the past 15 years. It's actually an amazing time to be a Transformers fan because they have not just so many cartoons and movies, but like so many versions of the toys. So like any Transformers toys fans, this is like a new golden age.
It's an amazing time to be a collector and a fan. Chris Vaglio says I had Jetfire, and he is a fan of Jetfire. Jeffrey Hulsenbach says nice, and Zentron adds, my favorite Saturday morning cartoon was the Mysterious Cities of Gold, which I have never ever seen. That's a whole nother subject that we're going to get into, because we need to move into our topic of the week. And our topic of the week is brought to you by Nightly Spirits Ghost Tours. You can get tickets at nightlyspirits.com for 17 cities around the country. Use my promo code JohnP667 and take 10% off your tour. And they are the sponsor of our Saturday morning monster movie matinee, Kaiju Krunch. And this morning, we're going to be talking about what has become one of my favorite kaiju characters, Gamera the Brave, Gamera the Guardian of the Universe. And Jonathan, I have a confession to make that until maybe the last month, I had never seen a Gamera movie.
Wow.
And because I didn't realize that Gamera was not Anguirus. I always thought, and I'm trying to get a picture of Anguirus here to load. Anguirus is a Godzilla character, and for some reason, I always thought Anguirus was Gamera, and I always called Anguirus Gamera. I had no idea they were two different characters, and
It's an easy mistake to make. I was at San Francisco Godzilla Fest yesterday, and they were showing Godzilla versus Gigan, and Anguirus is Godzilla's sidekick in that movie.
yes,
And yeah, it's like, it's like he's long and flat, and he's got like kind of like this flat back shell with spikes on it. So it's an easy mistake to make.
well, let's see. I think I just found it. Yes, here I'm going to load this image so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is Anguirus, and I think you can see where the similarities exist. Now, I will say this: it is very hard to find images of Gamera and Godzilla and other kaiju that aren't laced with malware. So all week, every time I try to download an image from the internet, it gets blocked. So I only have a few, but
How weird.
yeah, it is weird. So I asked Aubrey and Willow to take some time and to try to watch Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe. Now, this came out in 1996. This is not the first Gamera movie, but when I was trolling the interwebs and popping into kaiju fan groups on Facebook, I admitted that I'd never seen a Gamera movie, and I asked, where do you start? And most people agreed that the 96 through 98 or 2000, I guess it was 2000 something trilogy. There's 3 movies, starting with Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, was the best place to start. So I did. And Jonathan, I absolutely loved this movie. The second movie in the series, the Attack of Legion, Assault of Legion, was even better, in my opinion. The third one, it was okay. But this one started a love affair for me of this giant turtle that breathes fire and flies with jets, and it's just miraculous. Oh, there's the Mecha versus Kaiju box.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thank you, Willow, for loading that. So Willow,
Yes, sir.
did you do the assignment?
I kind of did. So yeah, I apologize. This week has been kind of crazy. But like from what I've seen growing up and having a science teacher that was a big monster movie buff, I remember watching an episode or a movie of Gamera. But yeah, no, recently, no, I haven't been watching any of the Godzilla stuff, unfortunately.
Okay, well, it's time to start diving in again because we're going to be doing this for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Now, in this movie, it revisits this old enemy from the 1967 movie Gamera versus Gaios. And the Gaios are these flying dragon-like monsters. And Jonathan, I don't know when the last time you saw this particular movie was, but
Earlier this week, because I'm a teacher and I do my homework.
I love this. I love that about you. What struck me about this, these movies were produced by Toho, the studio that did the Godzilla movies. But what struck me was the incredible realism in the costume of Gamera and the puppet mastery of the Gaiyus. You could tell that they were puppets at times, and I like that. I like that practical effects style of filmmaking. You know, there was no CGI, but it was so masterfully done, and it felt like, to me, the buildings were real. It felt like the explosions were real. It felt like the stakes in this movie were more. It was more real to me than any Godzilla movie up to that point.
I would certainly agree. I think that it was certainly better than any of the previous Gamera movies, but it owed a whole lot to the Heisei era of Godzilla movies. So I'm not sure if excuse me, not sure if any of you've seen the 1990s Godzilla movies. There was a Godzilla 85 that came out, and
I fell asleep 3 times in it.
I was captivated because I saw it in the theater, and it was both equally like exhilarating and hilarious because the American scenes, they brought back Raymond Burr, who, like, you know, I just love him as, you know, like Perry Mason and stuff like that. And so, I mean, he's hamming it up, and he loves it. By the way, a guy that never talked bad on his time on Godzilla. He loved that experience. And then it led to this whole 1990s series of interconnected movies. Like the old Showa movies, they were kind of, they were basically one-offs. Like there really wasn't any connection between the movies. But in the 1990s, it was a series, and they had recurring characters. They had this psychic character that came back repeatedly, and Godzilla grew. He had a family. Baby Godzilla became teenager Godzilla, and he actually ended up inheriting the Godzilla throne after the old man died. So it was really a great series, and that was what inspired the producers of Gamera to do this new take, to take it seriously. Because I don't know if any of you have seen the Mystery Science Theater 3000 versions of Gamera. If you haven't, go on YouTube. They are some of the best stuff those guys have ever done, and it's kind of the best way to watch those movies because they're a little painful. Like, well, you got little kids running around and having adventures with giant monsters, and it all was aimed at kids. And like
it was very silly. It sometimes almost like Power Rangers. Now, one of the things I love that they did with Guardian of the Universe, though, is that they kept that connection with the human girl, and that carries through on the whole trilogy. She comes back again and again, and is able to communicate with Gamera. Now, Aubrey, did you get to watch any Gamera? Do you have some notes? I knew it. I
was one. Okay, so I'm a fan of Gamera now, Guardian of the Universe. Though he did like to trash things, I will say, periodically.
Well, I mean, when you're a 40-story tall kaiju, it's kind of hard to be delicate.
We'll have to see how much I get into Godzilla, because I have seen Godzilla before. I have known of King Kong. Mechs are in my past, but I am new to Gamera, and I did not know that he was an Atlantean. I did not know that he was lover of all children everywhere. And so I started at the first movie, and I did a deep dive on the Dai Studio and all of it. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, so like Gamera's background was pretty much just, we should make something that's as good as Godzilla. Okay, we got it. And they made it. And people are like, no, wait, we really like this. Make more of these. And they did. The Japanese people they ate up the idea that even though we kind of know that he's a little bit of a ripoff of Godzilla. We know that. We know the story in the background is a little bit of a ripoff of Godzilla. But technically the creator, the head of Dai Studio, was not the one who came up with the idea for the turtle. Supposedly it was another young man who went on to do the show Spectre Man, just a FYI, in case anyone is interested in that little detail.
Greatest theme song in history.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
So
Spectreman. Okay, this is going on the
Spectre,
list. Hold on.
it's Spectre man.
Yep.
Okay. This gentleman, Tomio Sagaisu. I hope I said that right. He was the writer of Spectre Man, and he was the one who came with the idea to Dye Studios, and they kind of went, no, but we'll use that. So like studios do sometimes, but I went and did the deep dive in the background, and I have to say, if you see the Shouju, is it called Shouju era of kaiju movie? Showa. I didn't want to say it wrong, so I'd rather ask. It's different era than the new era we're talking about with the new movies, but we're coming into a totally new era again with Gamera because it's going to be on Netflix.
Yeah, so there's a Netflix animated series coming out called Gamera Rebirth, which looks amazing. It's supposed to be out in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, it's in September. It's coming up. I'm like, this is the perfect timing for this. I put it on my Instagram. I'm like, if you guys, I follow anime. I'm a grandma, but I also love anime. And I remember Cartoon Mix like way back in the day. So I was that girl. And I have to say, if you're going to watch something to do, don't start with Godzilla. I mean, yes, Godzilla is great. He's amazing. Come on. I'm a lover of an underdog. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the generation I grew up in. I don't know. But I really, really love an underdog. And like Gamera was not always a favorite. He wasn't. And he was like a rival almost of Godzilla. But he has his own theme song. And it's really weird. And it's got kids singing in the background. And it's kind of addictive. And I put it on my Instagram so I can infect more people. Because you guys have got to see this before you see the Netflix. See a little bit of the black and white movie, even if you can't tell right the whole thing. There's some interesting pieces and parts. And there's repetitive storylines. And the fights are almost identical. Like, that's weird, but kind of cool. You see the old black and white, and you see like the older, color versions, which is why I'm wearing 60s, by the way, because Gamera came out in the 60s. So I didn't know what to do with that. There's aliens, by the way. There's 3 female superheroes in one of the Gamera movies. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Wait. Slow down. What movie is that? Because that's going to be next on my list.
Okay, so yes, Johnny, you want to see the 3 sexy ladies in their cute little outfits.
For those of you who are just tuning in, Johnny is discovering Gamera for the first time. So I've seen 3 movies, but I've not seen the rest of them. So what movie is that?
Okay, so aliens, pollutions, bikini girls, Gamera versus
It was the last Gamera movie. I can't remember the title.
Gamera versus Vegra. Vegra.
Oh, Gamera versus Zegra was the one where the kids are 2 kids are kidnapped by 2 hot alien chicks, taken back to their planet so they can eat their brains.
Okay. So then that means it's the knife monster Gamera. So it's Gamera versus Gaurdian. That's the one. It's funny. There's alien ladies, superheroes. There is so much in Gamera from the beginning to end. And he's part of Atlantis. He's actually our old, way back. So there's a lot more to Gamera than, I feel like he's my new favorite.
Yeah, I absolutely have fallen in love with this character. And we have some great comments, by the way. Andrew Milden says, did I hear Power Rangers? Johnny, did you watch the movie yet? Are you talking about Now and Forever? I tried. I tried, Andrew. I really tried.
I watched it, Andrew. It was good.
I couldn't do it. Cartoon Commotion says, Gamera has a very fun history. I feel like it was a work in progress that got better over time. I love how one of the 80s movies basically tapped a turtle to a pencil and made it do flips. Wait, what?
Okay,
No,
so
that
in
was
the Gamera
Gamera
movie-
versus Zigra. Yeah, he
Yeah,
does gymnastics.
Okay, so Gamera is not just Gamera, or am I saying it right?
Sorry to interrupt. Is that the ladies that you were talking about?
They're not
Those
the
are
superheroes, they're the bad guys.
I love
Brain eating aliens.
Mm-hmm. So is it Gamera or Gamera, guys?
Gamera is how I pronounce it. That's how they pronounce it in the Japanese. Because I watch
Okay.
all of these movies in the original Japanese with subtitles. So
I do
Gamera.
too. But
Gamera.
Gamera, okay, so one more thing. Gamera is not just for kids. Okay? There are some dark, interesting, romantic, intense storylines in some of the older movies. Just a FYI. So if you like a little bit of adult sprinkled drama, it's like they couldn't decide. Kids movie, adult movie, kids movie, adult movie, kids movie, adult movie. They're all mixed in there, but it's worth it because of that.
Well, and Jonathan, you can probably comment on this. One of the things that struck me about the Gamera movies is that the human stories don't feel just tacked on. Because that was one of the issues that a lot of people have with Godzilla is that the human stories are just like, oh, we need to have people in this. And they're just kind of shoehorned in. In the Gamera movies, the human characters are vital to the entire storyline.
Yeah, a lot of times the story doesn't even happen if the humans aren't there to get things going, and they're continuing to influence things. It's like I think Gamera versus Zigra is a great example of that. Like these two kids find a spaceship, and they fly off to this other planet, and Gamera is chasing them to this other planet because he knows that there are hot alien chicks that are going to eat their brains. So he's trying to save the kids because he's a friend of all children, right? So he's not even on that planet if those kids aren't there. And then they're running around the alien base and like hiding and
that's why the orange is silver, by the way. Alien colors.
Awesome.
So
I mean, and of course Gamera was aimed at kids, so kids want to see like the Goonies in with monsters, and that's basically what Gamera is.
I love that analogy. Now I'm looking at the poster for Gamera versus Giron, and it strikes me that Giron looks like a Nazi land shark. That's the only way I can describe it.
He's a knife. He's got a knife head.
But
there's anime out there like that. But it's just
there's
a knife.
this emblem on his sword face, his knife face. That it's a star, but it looks like an iron cross. And so that's the first thing that popped in my mind when I saw that was yeah. Let's see if we can get
one thing you do have to get used to if you're watching Japanese pop culture is a little light Nazi iconography, because they had a different relationship with Germany in the 1940s. So it can be problematic at times.
Nazi fetishism is a thing in Japanese media.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So, Cartoon Commotion says, "Holy guacamole, a Gamera tune! It's about time." Yeah, and it looks fantastic. Although Zentron says, hopefully, it's not going to be one of the Netflix's recent animated reboots, remakes, which have been sadly rather sucky. I don't know what you're talking about, Zentron, because I love Skull Island, but
there was a Godzilla there's a Godzilla cartoon. It was not the best. It had it was kind of a high concept thing. Far future Godzilla has grown to enormous size, and colonists come back to try and take over the planet. It was kind of hit or miss.
Was that singular point? Is that what it was called?
I honestly I didn't see Singular Point, so that one I think was a different series. But what I will say is the Ultraman reboot anime is a direct sequel of the original 1967 Ultraman series, and it's pretty darn good. It's like Hayata's son inherits his powers, and and they have homages to a lot of the other Ultraman characters. So I do recommend the Ultraman Netflix cartoon, because that one was pretty good. Season 2 is coming out later this year.
That's been on my list to check out because I love Ultraman as a concept. The 60s TV show, not so much, but I love the idea of Ultraman, so I'll check out that series.
Yeah, it's a lot of this stuff is like Gamera. It's like you have to appreciate it, warts and all, and you just kind of like embrace that part of it.
I try to do that. Some properties are easier than others. All right, so Cartoon Commotion says the giant turtles were supposed to be mutants from Atlantis to clean up their mess. I think it was pollution, but like Gamera in later versions wasn't one of those. The story evolved in Gamera 3, The Revenge of Iris. They discover at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean thousands of dead Gameras. And they never explain that in that movie, but that's probably calling back to the origins of the character. And Dave Mattingly says, the recent Skull Island cartoon was a blast. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, I loved it. I disagree, Zentron. I thought that the Masters of the Universe series on Netflix was fantastic. I didn't see the kids He-Man, and I have not seen the She-Ra reboot because I'm not a She-Ra fan particularly, but I loved Masters of the Universe by Kevin Smith. Dave Mattingly says, Ultraman reruns were great when I was 8. And that's kind of how I feel about watching them again. Chris Goins joins us from Black Sheep Studios. He says, Gamera is really neat. Gamera is full of meat. We love you, Gamera. Is that the theme song, Jonathan?
If you haven't seen the Mystery Science Theater 3000 versions, you're like, what is that person talking about? And I am like, I have been holding my tongue, not singing that song.
Can you sing it for us?
I can certainly sing parts of it. Gamera, Gamera, Gamera is really neat. Gamera is full of meat. We are eating Gamera. And they have variations, and that's the actual tune, as you can attest, to the Gamera theme song with these little kid voices. But Mystery Science Theater 3000 is just these guys riffing on movies, and they did the 4 of the original Gamera movies, and I gotta admit, it's really one of the best ways to watch the classic movies because the jokes are hilarious. And I rewatched those this week to prepare for this podcast. And I think anybody of this generation, definitely, because there are some sort of dated jokes that are in there, but I think all of you would dig it. They're all available on YouTube. You just look for like MST3K and Gamera, and it is it's highly recommended.
So Willow, I feel like you've just been given a new rabbit hole to chase down. I feel like you're a Mystery Science Fiction Theater fan.
I'm gonna have to rewatch some of those episodes because I missed a lot living in foster care or moving around. But it is something that has been mentioned throughout my life, and yeah, I'm surprised that none of my friends actually really showed me any of these episodes. But yeah, well, I don't know.
My question for you, Willow, is you've heard us rave about Gamera and how much we are in love with this character. Are you now inspired to go watch and see what all the love is about?
Okay, guys, I grew up in a time where we had Power Rangers. So I feel like I've seen a lot of these monsters rehashed.
No. Gamera is one of the originals.
Join us.
And look,
one of us. One of us.
I know you feel like that looks like what it is. Yes, it is a latex costume of a giant turtle with saber tusks, but he breathes fire.
He
And
shoots fire.
I just got to say
He
that
shoots fire out of his stomach, and he has rockets that propel him.
he breathes fire, but he does have stomach rockets.
Yo.
Yeah, and tail jets, and his arms become flippers that are basically giant wings.
And there's no storyline of why, any rhyme or reason why
he was in Atlantean. He was in Atlantean. That's all you need to know. But look, I know this appears to be exactly what it is. However, the actors in this suit, I trust me when I tell you that out of all of this era of kaiju movies, these Gamera movies feel the most realistic of any of the movies I've ever seen. I've always thought that the Godzilla actors did a miraculous job of making us believe that the characters were real. But I'm telling you, Gamera took, at least for me, Guardian of the Universe in this trilogy took it to a whole different level of realism. And I really believed Gamera was a real character, a real kaiju, and that the threat was real.
All right,
you
Johnny,
look doubtful.
Where does this sit on the and Jonathan? Where does this sit on the favorite monsters of Godzilla?
Ooh, so for me, it's relatively new. So I'm going to put Gamera at number 3 because Godzilla will always be the king for me. And my second favorite out of the Godzilla universe is Jet Jaguar, who's not a kaiju. He's a giant robot. I love Jet Jaguar. And then number 3, I'm gonna go with Gamera. And I've just completely fallen in love with this character.
I gotta admit, it really for me it's an unfair comparison because of the differences in budget. I think that your analysis of this, like, this is what you're looking at. Like, yes, this is this is a turtle knockoff of Godzilla. But looking at it from that point of view, it's clear that they were really trying and like doing the best they can, which is kind of faint praise, I know, but I'll be honest, I will rank Godzilla above some of the Toho monsters. For me, obviously, Godzilla is top. I gotta go King Ghidorah as number 2, probably. I'm gonna put without going crazy, I'm gonna put Gamera in like at least like my top 5 or 6. So he would be like probably 5 or 6 on the list. If nothing else, because like, it's a great character. It's a great concept. And by the way, all those crazy abilities he has, Japanese loved doing these interior drawings with like the skeleton and bones and figuring out stuff. So Gamera actually canonically has elemental sacks within him, and that's how he's able to produce all of those crazy abilities of his. So that's so he's got that going for him. I don't think Godzilla has elemental sacks, so it's like
Wow. Well, so
everybody dies.
here's the other thing, Willow, and for all of you who have not encountered Gamera, is that Godzilla changed. His character changed depending on the era of the films and the director. He was, a wild force of nature. He was a hero. He was a villain. He was, a malevolent monster. Gamera is always a hero. And he's always a protector of the earth and humanity. And I really like that. My favorite Godzilla is the protector Godzilla, hero Godzilla. So I really like that Gamera is that character.
You know, I was really surprised. Like I said, I saw Godzilla versus oh geez, I just blanked on the name. I just mentioned it before, but it's the one before Godzilla versus Megalon, and he actually got his own hero theme song. And I think this is the first time I've seen the full translated version. So, like at the end of that movie, he's getting a theme song where they're singing about Godzilla's droopy eyes and his defense of the world. So they really did try and I think they did try and kind of like out Gamera with Godzilla's face turn. So I think we really do have to hand it to Gamera for softening Godzilla's image, especially in the late 60s and early 70s.
Well, so a couple of months ago, my son and I went and saw I think it was the 50th, either 30th or 50th anniversary it was the 30th anniversary of Tokyo SOS. It's a Godzilla movie where Godzilla and Mothra team up against a creature. And I think it's Gigan that they fight in Tokyo. Anyway, there's a creature that is found, a kaiju that's found dead on the beach, and it's Gamera. Gamera has been beheaded by Godzilla. Yeah, it was a deep cut.
It's obviously a kaiju turtle, and it was definitely a swipe. And I mean there was a lot of rivalry. I mean, Toho and Toei were they were rival companies, and they were trying to eat into each other's market. And Godzilla movies ended in 77. I think the last Gamera movie was 78. That's the one that had the three superhero chicks, and it was basically a clip show. It was like these three characters were just linking together edits that they had taken from other Gamera movies, which Godzilla was guilty of that as well. The some of the later Godzilla movies would take swipe scenes from their previous ones too. But yeah, by 1970s, it's just the genre was spent, and it was that sort of 10-year period where I think the generation that had grown up watching the movies became the adults that wanted to see the movies, and that was when the Heisei period started, and they brought it back, and they were kind of like me. They were like, I want to see a serious version of the stuff that I loved as a kid. Stuff that I took seriously when I was a kid, even though it was completely silly. I wanted to see a serious representation of that. I think that's why the 1990s movies have that sort of vibe to it. And, I'm really thankful for that.
Well, and Pacific Rim was everything I wanted from a Godzilla versus Voltron movie.
See,
or
and
Godzilla
I felt
versus
like there was
Robotech
something
movie.
missing from Pacific Rim, from the storyline. I don't know.
Really?
It was great action, don't get me wrong, but the story, it just felt like there was definitely something missing.
So here's what was missing, Willow. Your love for the genre. That's what was missing.
Okay, guys. And I get a lot of flack for this, but I actually enjoyed the Matthew Broderick version of Godzilla.
That's a great monster movie. It's a horrible Godzilla movie, but it's a great monster movie. It's actually a really good movie. Now, before we have to go, because we're a little bit over time, I got to ask, Jonathan. So I was exposed to Godzilla movies by Marty Sullivan, the host on WUAB channel 43 in Cleveland, Ohio. Our viewers and fans have seen this. He was super host.
Oh, nice.
And he would run the Saturday afternoon matinee movies, and they were Godzilla movies. And that's how I got turned on to kaiju movies. And how did you first become exposed?
You are so lucky to have somebody like that. I was forced to do the UHF channel roulette. We had I grew up in Stockton, California, which is about 90 miles from San Francisco and 40 miles from Sacramento. So it was a rich environment for these UHF channels. And for you Gen Zers and millennials there, let me tell you a little bit about UHF. You ever seen TVs with the rabbit ears on them? That's those are the channels we're trying to get in. So like I'm twisting these things around, trying desperately to get all of these channels. And before I would go out and play on a Saturday morning, I would check all of the channels to see what movies were playing. And if they were playing a monster movie, I was in front of the TV. I was not outside. And then
That was my experience too.
And then after Star Wars comes out, sci-fi is big again and profitable. So we had a horror host in San Francisco named Bob Wilkins, and this guy's a legend.
Yeah, he is.
If you know anything about horror hosts, you probably know Bob Wilkins. Creature Feature, glasses, cigar, telling these bad jokes, but with a lot of love. And he had a TV show, a kids' TV show called Captain Cosmic, and he would wear this like red shiny suit and a helmet, and he would play TV shows. And this is something that you haven't gotten into. You've been talking about movies, but there were a ton of monster TV shows. So Ultraman was one. That was where I saw Ultraman, Space Giants. And so that was like my daily dose of kaiju was what was coming from there. And so I think that's sort of I love Godzilla and I love the movies, but I think the daily hit of giant monsters was probably what turned me into the into the freak that I am today.
That's awesome. Aubrey, did you as a kid, did you have any local movie hosts, or how did you discover these properties, or did you?
So I had a lot going on when I was a kid. I was back and forth from two households. So for me, it was whatever I could see as cartoon commercials on TV or radio stations. I didn't have an adult that was really obsessed with any cartoons or even thought it was okay to watch them. I came from third generation American. I wasn't even technically born in this country, but I have learned that there was so much connection from one friend to another when you liked this like fandom. It was like something that made us be able to say, yeah, I'm a little socially awkward and maybe a little neurodivergent, and maybe I don't exactly fit in with the crowd, but I do like this one thing in this one cartoon. Do you like it too? And this was just this beautiful connection that we all had. I loved cartoons at a young age, and so as an adult, I still love cartoons. And I've gotten into anime because of that exposure, all of the early exposure that we had. I did want to say one thing real quick with cameos that wow, that happened because I'm so new to him.
Hold on just a minute, Aubrey.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're getting some noise on your mic. Bring it just a little bit closer to your mouth.
Okay. How's that?
Yeah, that'll be better.
Okay. So Gamera had cameos that I think everybody should check out. The Simpsons, and Dragon Ball, but also he was named as after a turtle. A turtle was actually named after him recently. So a Cretaceous era turtle has officially been named Gamera. Just a little FYI. He became part of our history now. Like I feel right. Like I feel like that's really, really cool.
I love that.
So just a little down, on there for details. Oh my gosh.
This is Captain Cosmic.
Oh, I feel like I remember that.
Oh yeah, there he is. And the Wonder Robot 2T2.
Love it. Love that. Love that.
Yeah,
all right, guys.
I think your thing with the naming an actual thing after Gamera. This is what happens when the nerds grow up and take the reins of power.
I love that. I love that. All right, guys, we got to run. I got a show to get ready for at the Palace Theater today. Beyond Smoke and Mirrors, 1 p.m. Palace Theater, Gallatin, Tennessee. Tickets are still available, so you can show up at the door or you can pre-order them at johnnybeyond.com. And Jonathan, thank you so much for being with us. I want you to tell folks, show that game one more time. Tell folks how they can back it on Kickstarter. Of course, the address is in your Krylon there, but
Mecha versus Kaiju. If you any backer over 25 gets the original book, all 20 other books and supplements that we've had for the system, and the new game, you can also download a free starter adventure that has pre-gens, a rules summary, and a full adventure, so you can actually get the feel of the game. And if you want to have the full experience right now, I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/Mecha versus Kaiju.
That's fantastic. Willow, tell folks where they can follow, find, and support you. You're muted, Willow.
Sorry, I was trying to upload a picture, but okay. So you can find me all over social media. I am the social media socialite. I am on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch sometimes, and on TikTok.
Very good. And Miss Aubrey, where can people follow, find, and support you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Currently, I am on Twitch and Discord occasionally also.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And guys, follow me at johnnybeyond.com. And of course, make sure you follow this show at backofthecerealbox.fun. And not just this show, but all of the other shows in the Cereal Box Network, like Cartoon Commotion, Ice Cream Queens, Cosplay Cafe, Fanatic Forum, the Gilmore Sisters, and more. At backofthecerealbox.fun. And don't forget, we need your support. So if you like this show, become a supporter at buymeacoffee.com/cerealbox.com, or cerealboxpod rather, buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod. Get your call to action right, Johnny. Your contributions help keep us advertiser free, and we're not beholden to advertisers. The more people who contribute, 1, 2, 3 bowls of cereal a month, whole box of cereal, you keep us advertiser free. So with that, I think it's time to say goodbye. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, bonjour. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for being with us. Thank you for watching and listening. Like the show, comment, share it, subscribe, do the things. And until the next time, love you, mean it. We'll catch you on the back of the cereal box.
Ikimasu.